Hey guys, it's good to see you again. Thanks for tuning in for another amazing episode of priceless insights, wisdom, and valuable information that I would love to share with you about a topic of fundamental importance, and that is how do we supercharge our brains and consequently our minds? How do we increase our cognitive capacity, clarity of thought, ability to concentrate, to memorize things, and have an amazing intellectual ability whenever we need to engage our mind in any thinking process? Now, I do invite you to keep an open mind, because one of my favorite quotes is that the mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So in order for all of these insights that I'm about to share with you to really work and plant themselves in your consciousness, you have to have an open mind to welcome them and be open to taking them and applying them into your life. Because this is one thing I want to clarify. All this information is great, but only if it's applied in the real world and you actually take it and apply it and see the results for yourself. This is not intellectual masturbation. Collecting information and not applying it in your life wouldn't change anything at all about your life. You're just going to sound a lot more intelligent when you have conversations with others because you know all these things. But when people look at you and they evaluate you, because people can see a lot of things from the sides, right? They will know that this is something you just talk about, but you neither live it or breathe it. It's not something that's part of you being. It's just something that you hold intellectually in your mind, but it's not part of who you are. And that's the key. With all the information I'm sharing with you, with all the insights, with all the wisdom, I want you to take them, apply them to your life, see the results for yourself, and then make them a part of your being. Because this is the key. In any transformation or any process that we want to change something about ourselves, it's great. We start with the intellectual understanding of new concepts, ideas, and beliefs, and so on. But then we need to apply these things, because only knowing them wouldn't change anything. We're just gonna know them, but that's where it ends. And at the end of the day, I hope that you're not doing this for intellectual entertainment. If that's the case, you're better off watching a documentary or some old stupid ass movie on Netflix. If you actually want to change something, please take these actionable things and insights I'm going to share with you today, all of these strategies and tactics, and put them in practice into your daily life. So let's begin our amazing lesson today. Now, the first thing I want you to understand is that we always start by the question why. Why do you want to supercharge your brain and your mind? What if you do and what if you don't? Think about it. Now I'm going to give you my reason of why this is such a fundamental importance. We live in the age of information, and there is so much information there. Pretty much all of the knowledge in the world is there and available to everyone, as long as you know where to look for it. And you're curious about a subject, you will find everything you need to know. You can have a PhD without going to college, literally, by self-educating yourself. And here's an important thing I want you to remember. The word educate comes from the Latin word educo, which means to elicit from within, to self-educate, to self-learn things from practical experience from your own life, where learning or standard education as it's marketed today has nothing to do with this. It's all about indoctrination and just force feeding you information that you have no practical experience of or very limited. Now, there are certain fields where a lot of the knowledge, yeah, we definitely see that it's applied practically, and you can experiment like in physics or chemistry or biology and so on. There definitely space for application of the knowledge, but most of it is just learning, meaning like you're a sponge and you're just absorbing all the moisture they pour on you, right? This is not the true meaning of education. The true meaning of education is you eliciting from within with your own curiosity and desire to learn deeply about a subject, because it either is going to benefit you or someone else, or you're coming from a place of service and so on. So I want you to always hold this in your consciousness, that to educate means that you have to actually do it on your own. Step outside of the box and create your own ideas. What I'm sharing with you is not the ultimate. It's just a lot of good wisdom and insights that can inspire you, that will give you the starting point to take and run with. But I want you to also be inspired to go even deeper if this is important to you. Because again, we live in the age of information. And if you look at it, all of the careers you can follow, or all the ways you can serve humanity nowadays, always involve using your intellectual capacity or your cognition. We no longer live in the age of labor where your ability to work, to lift heavy weights and so on was of fundamental importance. We have machines doing this for us nowadays. The only thing that machines cannot do as good as we do as of yet, that most likely wouldn't be replaced for a long time, which is a good news, right? Because we all gonna have the ability to have amazing careers that come from a place of service and adding value, is our ability to cognize, and especially creative cognition. Being able to create things, to intuit things that machines could never, ever be able to do, because machines can connect dots and process a lot of data. Yeah, that's great, but they don't have intuitive ideas, right? They don't have creativity. They can process the data, but they don't know really what to do with it unless a human being tells it what needs to be done with it, or what could be done with it, right? It's always a human being that defines the rule set that a computer would follow. The computer doesn't create its own rule set. So this is the one thing, or the one main reason why, in my personal opinion, it's so valuable to focus on developing your cognitive capacity and supercharging your brain's capacity and your mind's capacity. Because the brain is like the tangible part that science can play with and see and so on, and you know it's right here in the skull, that the mind uses. But the brain is honestly, more as far as science can prove right now, is nothing but a big receptor, or in a sense of a receiver where data streams into, that comes from a space that's intangible, that does not exist in this plane. Where it is, where our minds live, where they're kind of like stored, you can say that they're stored in the cloud. But where is this cloud? Well, my explanation is this is the ether, that space of energy that exists beyond everything, behind all physical matter. This is where what scientists call the quantum field, the field of energy, of possibilities, and so on. So the mind is something infinite in its capacity to develop, to grow, to expand, and to be amazing at anything you can imagine. As long as you believe it and you can imagine, you can do it. But you have to have this belief and imagination within you. Where the brain, being that it's locked up in a solid bone skull, doesn't have much space to change or to expand, even though it does. The neural networks within it, as we, for example, develop habits, change habits, and so on, yeah, we can change the neural networks within, but as far as its size, its shape, and so on, it's pretty much the way it is. There's nothing we can do with that. about it. We can just enhance or provide it with the things that enable it to function at its highest capacity. And this is what we're about to learn through this amazing lesson. Now, one of the most important things I want you to understand is that the brain, even though it's a very small part of the human body as far as weight and so on is concerned, consumes, even in idle, meaning like when you're not doing anything or not thinking about anything, about 20% of all the vital energy that is available to the body at any time. Now, why am I saying this? Because energy follows focus. Or wherever you focus or whatever you focus on, your energy goes to. So if you want to be highly concentrated, focus, and so on, you need to create this focus and concentration by eliminating distraction. This is one of the first things we would start a conversation with. In order to be able to cognize and have amazing intellectual capacity, you need to be able to remove distractions, to concentrate and focus your energy. A simple analogy of this is a laser beam or a magnifying glass. Like, for example, sunlight is very pleasant. It's nice, warm, and so on, right? When that comes directly from the sun, and we absorb it here on our skin or the plants and so on. And yeah, if you were to stay, so many hours in the middle of the day under the sun, yeah, you'll get skin burn and so. But if you take a magnifying glass and then you focus that light, in a matter of seconds, you will be burning through things, or you'll setting things on fire. So that's how important is your ability or becoming able to remove distractions, focus and concentrate your energy on specific problem, on specific thing you're thinking about, right? Channeling or fueling all of your energy into your thinking rather into distractions or other things. Now, here's an important thing I want you to understand. There are three predominant things or three type of activities that take away or consume the most significant amount of energy that our body has at any given time. Number one is fight or flight, or when you stress, when you enter in this anxious state, right? Because it comes from a very primitive evolution. If you don't survive now, it doesn't matter for later, right? It doesn't make any difference. If you got eaten now or whatever it is, or you're attacked and killed, who cares, right? There's no later. It's all about now. So this, when you're, let's say, a chronic, mild fight or flight stress response on a daily basis by not caring about your mental well-being and psychology and so on, and you're always stressed out and anxious, your body by default is drawing or is taking away a lot of the energy that is there, that's available to other things, but you don't know it. So you might feel very low on energy, or always drowsy, or whatever it is, or having problems with focusing, even though everything else is okay. Right? That could be it's a major reason why people lack the ability to think or concentrate and so on, because they're in a constant state of fight or flight, which draws all the energy to the externalities, to the hand, the feet, and so on, constricts your digestion and everything else, and basically makes you survive if you are attacked or you need to run for your life or whatever it is. However, you know very well that this is not the case. So every time you unconsciously are in this state, you're literally throwing away all of your energy, because without energy, we cannot think, right? Thinking requires energy. The more you think, the more energy you need. The more you concentrate and focus on this one thing, the more you can think, right? So this is really what it comes down to. How much energy can you channel into your thinking rather than anything else in order to boost and magnify your cognitive capacity? That's truly what it comes down to. I already have an amazing video on how to eliminate stress from your life. So if that happens to be the case, you find yourself anxious or you lack energy or your digestion is kind of, you have indigestion, because this will be a very clear symptom that you are definitely struggling with chronic stress and so on, or you cannot sleep and so on and so on, and you're very reactive to things. I do recommend clicking on the link below. You will see it and see all my videos. See all the videos and go to the one, it's a couple weeks ago, on eliminating stress, and starting there. And then coming back to this video to watch the rest of the information. Now, the next extremely important process that takes a lot of energy from our body that we have control over, because the three processes I'm listing, they're processes that we have control over. Because if we don't have control over them, even if you knew it, what difference would it make? No difference, because you have no control. But the second one you have control over is food digestion. Now, food digestion obviously is a fundamental process because it's extremely important for our survival. If we don't eat for a certain amount of time, well, death could be certain, depending on your level of body fat and how strong your will for life is. But that's a whole different story, generally speaking, right? When we're talking general population and general beliefs. Food digestion takes at least 8 hours and draws a significant amount of energy away from the body. So if we want to have a high level of cognition, focus, and energy, the less you eat, actually the better, because the body does not need food for energy. This is a big limiting belief that it's been propagated throughout the world, and people think that they need food for energy. I will explain exactly what you need for energy just a little later, but stay with me for a moment here. Food takes more energy to digest than the energy you get in return by digesting. Meaning that the math doesn't add. You're always on a loss after eating than on a benefit. If ever you actually gain any energy. If you actually break even, you're doing fucking great. So food is never your thing. So you want to avoid having food. In a longer fasting state you are, the more energy you're going to have. And I'll explain this a little bit later when I talk about fasting in detail, how powerful it is to fast in order to get even more focus and more clarity and more amazing cognitive capacity. Now, the third process is reproduction, because it's another vital process that we have control. Now, women not necessarily want to be worried about this. If you're a woman, there's nothing you can do from this perspective, and it's not going to affect you negatively. But if you're a man, here is where it really makes a difference. Every time you ejaculate, you are throwing away a significant amount of vital energy, an energy that takes about a week to fully restore, for the body to recharge. It doesn't matter if you're age. If you're younger, it's much easier, but once you get in your 30s and you start to age from there, I do recommend, even if you I don't have anything against having sex and intercourse and so on, but do not ejaculate. Learn how to control your excitement and hold on to your vital fluid and force, because every time you ejaculate, you throw it away, and you throw away significant amount of energy that takes about a week to fully restore. So I do not recommend this unless you're creating a family, you're working on making a baby. Then by all means, how else you gonna do it, right? But if it's just recreational for fun, do not waste away your vital fluid. Hold on to it. So these three processes we have directly control over. And there are amazing ways for us to hold on to and again channel this energy into our cognition, into the work we do and the projects we work on, and so on and so on. Now, another important point I want to bring out is that of GIGO, which means garbage in, garbage out. And this holds true on metaphysical, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, and all levels. Meaning that if you consume garbage as food, a lot of more garbage will be coming out of you, or your work or how you could perform will be equal to garbage. It's the same with your thoughts. If you think shitty thoughts, your output would be shitty thoughts. If you watch shitty TV, your output will be shitty TV. If you feel shitty emotions, your output will be shitty emotions. It applies in all aspects of life. So what do I mean by this? What can you do about it? Do not watch fucking garbage TV loaded with negative ideas, thoughts, violence, whatever. Music, same thing. Anything that's not adding value to your life, entertainment is crap. Like literally. Entertainment, unless it's edutainment, meaning that it's entertaining but it's educating you or something important, is a fucking waste of time. You have the one resource that we all have the same amount of, and it's scarce, limited. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are and what your position in life is, that you cannot make more of, is time. And how you choose to use your time is the most significant identification or identifier of what are your values or what you value in life. Because the things that are valuable to you, you're always going to have time for. I hope this makes you thinking. Now, you might ask, how do I learn to concentrate? That would be an amazing question to ask at this moment. Well, let's break it down. I'm doing this on purpose. Now focus on my face. I want you to bring your focus to the center of my face. What do you see there? Yes, my nose. What can you do with your nose? To breathe. The nose, which is used for breathing, is placed at the center of your face or our faces because it's of central or fundamental importance to everything else in our life. If you want to learn to focus and concentrate, learning to slow and deepening your breath is the most significant thing you can do. Now, these were 2 deep inhales and exhales, or 2 full breaths with the pace I'm talking about. Slowing down your inhale and exhale using your nose and breathing into your diaphragm or into your belly. By doing this, you will slow down your mind. You'll be able to focus and concentrate and become more present. You will also slow down your heartbeat. And here is the key. When do you know that you have reached that point? When you start to hear your own heartbeat. If you can hear your own heartbeat, then your mind is quiet enough. and you have reached that point where you have very concentrated and focused. And then as long as you avoid distractions or you eliminate distractions, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, you can focus on your work and work in a deep state of focus. Now, once you concentrate and focus, I want you to understand that the mind and the brain can work in these very deep periods of focus for up to 90 minutes. This can vary. You can do it less than that. It doesn't have to be 90 minutes, but 90 minutes is the optimal to sustain this level of concentration and being in the state of flow. After 90 minutes, your mind's and brain's ability to focus and concentrate begins to fall down. And what it's good to do is to structure your day or your work or your task that you work on in these up to 90 minutes windows of deep focus, when you go really deep focus and take care of stuff, right? And then take 10-20 minutes to re-energize your mind and everything. And the next step we're going to talk about is this, but keep up to 90 minutes. So what are the three main senses for energy for our brain? Well, number one is oxygen or air. Good breathing. Again, the deep, slow breathing. And continuously being conscious of your breath while you work. Because if you do and you maintain this deep, slow breathing pattern, you will notice that you will sustain your level of focus and concentration, and you're going to have a lot more energy. The second source is water. You have to be hydrated. Up to 80% of the body mass and what makes our body is water. The moment we start to become dehydrated, our ability to focus, our energy, everything starts to drop down. So you will need to stay well hydrated. That's the second thing. And on that note, cheers with some nice distilled water that I just made myself. Next point. The third source of energy is food. However, I'm going to be very specific about the type of food you want to use. And this type of food is fat. You want to use some high quality fat like MCT oil, coconut oil. Ghee is also amazing. Any good fat would do, because fat has a very long lifespan once you consume it, and will keep the energy constant, high, and there won't be no spikes. Where if you were to eat any sugary or drink any sugary drink, beverage, doesn't matter if it's energy drink, Coca-Cola, whatever it is, it's just gonna spike up your blood sugar, blood glucose, and then whoop, it's gonna dip down, and then you're gonna feel lethargic. So what I suggest and recommend is that you avoid, if you want to focus and concentrate in whenever you want to use your mind to its ultimate potential and to its fullest capacity, I recommend avoiding any heavy meals, especially carbs and stuff of that nature, because they're gonna make you lethargic, they're gonna make you slow, lazy, sleepy, and so on. So if you're gonna eat anything, meaning this is last case scenario or worst case scenario, right? You oxygenate it well, you drink a lot of water, and you still feel like, okay, I'm lacking on the energy, then get some good fat. Best again is to get some MCT oil, because I will explain why ghee is not so great for that when it's just eaten by itself. When it's eaten by itself, ghee does not digest, or the body does not digest it. It just serves as a great lubrication for your intestine and your food tract, but it's not something that's going to be digested from the body and use as energy source. However, MCT oil would be great. And a good something that you can do actually is to make yourself a cup of black coffee and add some MCT oil in it. That would be a great thing to do. That way you can absorb it, digest it, and use it for energy. Plus the caffeine is already gonna give you a little spike. Now that we're talking about caffeine, what I want you to understand is that as we wake up every morning, naturally our body are very high in cortisol and adrenaline, or the hormones of stress. And caffeine stimulates our body to release even more of those chemicals. So in order to not overstress your body, and again, trigger without even knowing a mild state of fight or flight, avoid drinking coffee first thing in the morning. The rule is you need to wait for at least 2 hours after you have waken up to have your first cup of coffee. And I do not recommend going above 2 cups of coffee, because this is just gonna stress you out more and make you more nervous and jittery and so on, which is definitely not something helpful when you want to concentrate and think clearly. You'll be all over the place, right? So again, oxygenate well, drink enough water, and eat fat if you have to. Good high quality fat. This will be the energy source that will keep you running at high level of energy without any crashes and anything else. And it's also very easy for the body to absorb, as long as your body's digestion is well off. If you have digestive problems now, that's a whole different story. It will take a whole 2 hours of a conversation just to unpack it. But as long as your body is in a good state and can digest food well, fat is your energy source. Case closed. Now, we already talked about removing distractions from your environment, because what fun would be for you to be highly concentrated and do all these things if there are distractions and you are like a walking doorbell for everyone, right? Everybody can come and disrupt your process of deep concentration, of flow, and so on. So the first thing you need to do is to set your phone on airplane mode. Do not disturb, or any mode of the sort. Like my phone, for example, unless I'm using my phone, meaning like I need to make a phone call, I need to check an email, I need to actually do something, my phone is by default in airplane mode. I only put it back into normal mode, or I connect to the network or my Wi-Fi or whatever when my phone is in my hand and I want to use it. Other than this, no thank you. I don't want to be distracted. Now, the other thing is to close all other windows, right? If you're working on your computer and you have all these windows, you have your little Facebook buddies you're chatting with, or so on and so on. There is this misconception that the human mind can multitask. This is a big misconception, because the human mind can only think about one thing at a time. So the only thing you can successfully do or learn to do is task switching, but not multitasking, because multitasking requires from you to think about 2 things simultaneously. And try to do it right now. Think about what you're going to do tomorrow morning, and think about what you're going to have for food now. Think about these 2 things simultaneously and see how successful you are. You can either think about one thing, or you can either think about the other, but you cannot think about them both. So multitasking is fucking bullshit. Do not distract yourself. If you have created the habit of distraction, now would be a good time to start replacing it with the habit of no distraction, high concentration, and focus, so you can make the most out of your time. This is truly what it comes down to. When it comes down to supercharging your mind. You need to create an environment that helps you to supercharge your mind rather than acts as a distraction and it's in your way of being concentrated and creating the highest quality of mental work that you can do. As I mentioned, energy follows focus. So, what do we do to channel our energy into our focus? Or how do we channel the energy in what we are doing mentally? Well, we want to set, or you want to develop the habit of setting an intention about the outcome you desire from anything or any task you begin and take on. So always, before you begin a task, always set a very clear intention of what the desired outcome is. And also, if you can, even better is if you can visualize the best case scenario's outcome of the task you are taking on. So always set this intention before you start to work on this task. That way you can channel all of your focus and energy on that task. So that's how we do it. This is how we channel the energy. Start to develop this habit. I already mentioned this, but I will repeat it again. If you want to be able to have a very, very high level concentration, focus, mental energy, and so on, avoid by all means having any heavy meals. Anything with carbs, pastas, anything like this, with a lot of sugar and so on, energy drinks, any sugary sodas, juices, any of that garbage. First, it's not good for your health whatsoever, and I do recommend you also watching my health video on how to optimize your health and wellness to find out more in detail. But I do not recommend you eating anything with carbs because they're gonna make you lethargic. They're gonna, as I mentioned already, food digestion takes a lot of energy and it's a very long and tedious process. So do not self-sabotage yourself. Again, if you necessarily need to and want to eat something, eat some fat. And best have your black coffee with some MCT oil or something of the sort. But avoid carbs by all means, or heavy protein meals, because protein takes a lot of heavy digestion. And it takes a very long time to process from the body. So not only do you avoid carbs, but avoid proteins as well. Focus on the fat. Fat is the best. You cannot go wrong with that. Now, I already mentioned this, but let's go into a detail or explain to you why it actually works. And I'll give you personal examples as well to make this, drive this home even further. If you want to have a significant impact on your cognitive capacity, the one thing that's going to make the most significant difference if you are to start fasting regularly. What do I mean by this? There are many forms of fasting. The one which I recommend you start with is called intermittent fasting, which means that you have a window during the day which you fast and you don't need anything. You're not doing anything, no calories, or you don't drink anything with calories. And then you have a window of 8 hours. This is kind of the popular way of having a 16 hours window of fasting, most of which falls during the time when you sleep, and then having a window of 8 hours during which you can have meals. This would be the first way to start with the process of fasting and discovering how effective it is in empowering you to be an amazing genius, or to think clearly and at a very high level consistently every single day without any variances in energy. Now, the second time of fasting, or the second level after that, is to start even going down on your window for food, or feeding window. Instead of, let's say, 8 hours, you make it 6 hours, and then eventually 4 hours, and then eventually 2 hours, and then you become an OMAD, or 1 meal per day diet, something that I've been doing for a very, 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 very long time. At this point, I think it's probably close to 2 years, if not longer. And prior to that, I was doing the intermittent fasting and so on. And fasting has been has brought significant difference in my life. I really enjoy it, to be honest with you. Once you get used to it, you don't longer see any reason to have food at all, even for days. I normally go, not normally, but once a month or every 2-3 months, I do a prolonged water fast. Again, when I say fasting, I mean 0 calories. Doesn't matter if you eat something or you drink something. You can drink water, you have to stay hydrated, but nothing with calories. Or you can have black coffee or just green tea, or simple things that have no calories in them. Because the moment you consume something with few calories, you break your fast, and then you wasted your time. So transitioning into fasting, and I'll explain why this really works. Obviously, as I said earlier, digesting food takes away a lot of vital energy. And by digesting food, the body does not create more energy, because there is no energy in the food. Yes, there is kilojoules and this and that, and it could be, scientists call it energy, but that's all, it's heat energy. And you're not a boiler, right? Unless you're trying to boil water or some like a heater, and you want to heat up your room or something, which obviously is not the case, because you cannot heat your room by your body heat, right? But that's the only energy that is produced by food digestion. The only energy that comes out as heat, which cannot be converted in the type of energy that I am referring to and you're concerned with, which is energy that you can use for mental processes, for cognition and so on. So do not confuse these two things, right? Now, here's a very interesting thing. When I first started doing my long or prolonged fasts, what I realized is after day 3 or 4, when your body really adjusts to the fasting process and just by being on water, the amount of clarity, of focus, of concentration, of how peaceful and focused your mind becomes is incredible. Incredible, especially in those few first 4 or 5 day long or a week long fasts, water fasts. You have a mind clarity that's like no other. And since I already was doing a lot of meditation daily and I'm highly attuned with what's going on within my body, I can feel the smallest sensations throughout my body, and I'm fully aware of what's going on with my body, which allows me to fine-tune my diet and everything else, because feedback is important, right? And the body, what's wonderful about the body is that it gives you instant feedback if what you're doing is working well or it doesn't. And in this case, the other thing I noticed is that all of my senses got extremely enhanced. Like I could hear all the little details. I can smell all the little details. I can, not that I couldn't see before, but everything, like how I feel like I could focus in the distance a lot more better and see things with a lot more clarity. So what was going on? Then I sat down and I was just like thinking to myself, doing some reflection on what's going on here. Why is this so? Well, think about it. The human body is designed to survive. It's one of the most advanced technologies, if not the most advanced technology that exists on planet Earth or throughout the universe. And as such, it's built to go and get prey, right? Our ancestors were hunter-gatherers. They would forage and hunt for their survival in order to supply their bodies with the sufficient nutrition it requires to continue to maintain itself, right? Because that's why we eat, to supply the body or the trillions, 50 to 100 trillions individual cells that make our body with enough nutrients or building blocks they need to rebuild, repair, and maintain this amazing technology we take advantage of and enjoy that we call the human body. Now, what happens if you haven't eaten for days and you imagine you're one of our early ancestors, you live out in the wild, maybe in a tent, maybe in a cave, whatever the situation might be, in a tribe, or maybe even by yourself because you were kicked out of your tribe or they all passed away or whatever it was. In order to survive, your body would start to highly attune all your senses, because as a hunter or a gatherer, you need all these senses to be able to see and experience your environment in depth. So when the prey is available, you have all of the energy, all of the capacity, all of the cognition, all of the focus and concentrated to go and snatch it, right? You become this amazing, amazing machine in those periods of fasting, because the body optimizes itself. It's thinking, oh, no food there. We need to get food. So it starts to optimize everything. And that's how I actually felt. I felt like a beast. Like I felt like I am a lion in the jungle the first time. Like I felt so like I can smell, almost like I can smell the blood of things and feel their pulse, right? It was so intense. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I never experienced anything like this in my life. So the first immediate benefit, again, because obviously in order to be great at hunting or noticing things, you have to have high level of cognition, right? So the first immediate effect from fasting is mental clarity, high level of cognition, and ability to really be focused and concentrated for long periods of time. That's why to me, fasting is one of the main ways you can really significantly boost your cognitive capacity. Because I'll give you the proof. The proof is very simple. Again, as I said, I already recommended avoiding carbs, but next time when you feel low on energy and you take a break and you're gonna go and eat your food and eat your carbs, notice how do you feel afterwards. Just mark before, 1 to 10, how do you feel your energy is, and then an hour later, once again, measure how do you feel, how your energy is. If your energy is any higher than what it was before, I would be surprised. I'll be actually surprised if it's even equal. Most likely you'll be sleepier and more tired than prior to. This is how you know how it affects, and not only your energy, but are you able to focus? Do you have brain fog? Do you forget? Are you distracted? Right? These are fundamental things. This is how you know if it's working or not. So that's why I'm telling you, these things you can take them and experiment today and see the effects right away. This is not about intellectual entertainment here, me sharing with you some ideas and you're like, oh, I know this, and because I know it, my life's gonna change. Well, it's not gonna change unless you change your behavior, and nothing about your life will change. This is simple as that. Like, I have to be honest and transparent with you. Unless you change your behavior, you cannot expect different results in your life. And seriously, it doesn't matter if you have 33,000 PhDs. You're just gonna have a lot of information. But why the fuck would you go and learn it when Google has all the answers? As long as you know what questions to ask, you'll be wasting your time and your life away. I'd rather ask Google for something that I don't know than that I need to know once in a while some fact than again, getting me a PhD or whatever the fuck it is, some useless piece of paper I cannot even wipe my ass with, and acquiring tons of debts with it, which is another different story, but you know, let's not get there. Cheers again, I need to rehydrate. So again, stay hydrated. Hydration is fundamental. Oxygen, hydration, and fat, if anything else. Now, how do we actually boost our creativity? Well, here's the thing. Let's first examine the different sections of the brain and what they're responsible for, how do they work, and what can we do to actually enhance them, right? Because again, we're gonna supercharge our brains and our mind as a consequence. Now, most of you probably know, or if you haven't heard yet, the left prefrontal cortex right here is responsible for our executive functioning, or meaning like our rationale, our logic, all these linear process of thinking, right? Anything that involves so-called intellect and intelligence is controlled by this part of the brain. However, our creative capacity, ingenuity, resourcefulness, because these are just different types of creativity, right? Everyone expresses their creativity in different ways. Some people are creative in the sense of, you know, they paint, they play music, they sing, they're actors, whatever the hell it is, right? Doesn't matter. Some people express this through being inventive, right? Like Leonardo da Vinci, he was actually a great example of all these things combined together, right? Creativity expressed through invention, through ingenuity, through resourcefulness, and so on. And another expression of creativity is resourcefulness, meaning, if you don't know what I mean by resourcefulness, is that you always find what you need, even though if you might not have it. You just find something that actually works in this case and you can fit it in. So being creative, being resourceful, being ingenious about things, and inventive, and so on. These are all different types of how creativity is expressed in a person. And how do we stimulate this? Well, the right side of the brain is actually which is responsible for this. As you probably know, or if you've seen a picture, the brain has a left and a right hemisphere. And the right hemisphere is responsible for creativity. Or this is where creativity lives. Or that's what science is pointing to. Now, what can you do? Well, here's the thing. You need to understand that there is a direct connection between body and mind and body, or brain and body, and body and brain, right? The brain is there to control all the functions in the body. And by, let's say, by using the body in certain ways, we can stimulate the brain. So here's how it actually works. In science, this is scientifically proven that the left hemisphere of the brain is responsible for controlling the right side of the body. Meaning that this hand, my right side, my whole right side of the body, if we were to split it right here, is controlled by my left hemisphere. The same holds true for the left side. The left side is actually commanded or controlled, or whatever you want to call it, through the right hemisphere. So by using more of my left side of the body, I stimulate my right side of the brain. Because the more I use the body, the more my brain needs to evolve and develop in order to be able to better control the body. So if I wanted to stimulate my creativity, which means I don't need to stimulate the right hemisphere of my brain, is I want to start using my hand for a lot of things, or my left hand and left leg, right? So unless you are a left-handed person, which is rare, but it's possible, then that's great. If that's your case, then wonderful. Then I would advise you to maybe use your right hand more to stimulate your rationale and ability to cognize if this is important to you. But if you're someone like me and the majority of humanity out there, which are right-handed, and the truth is that we are both two-handed, it's just that we've built a preference. It's all a habit. that we've become right-handed. So if you really want to stimulate your creativity, especially the right side of your hemisphere of the brain, and actually create a better fusing between them, is you need to start using your left hand for a lot of the mundane tasks during the day, right? Brushing your teeth, holding your fork or spoon when you eat, or whatever. All these mundane tasks that you can do that you're not doing right now, start doing them with your left hand. This is how you're gonna actually stimulate the right side or the right hemisphere of your brain, which will directly help you to be more creative and so on, because the brain and consequently the mind needs stimulation. It's like anything else. If you let something or not use something, will atrophy, right? This is a proven fact. Doesn't matter if it's a body part or it's your brain or anything like that. Anything that's not used atrophies. It's just a natural law. It starts to decay and fall to pieces, right? And we don't want to have this, obviously. This is not the goal here. So use your left side of, left side of the body. Even, if you can use your left leg for things. I like to use my legs almost if I was like a monkey, and sometimes I just to stimulate my body to even further, or my brain to a further degree, and use my, kind of like to open doors and stuff, and again, to task switching and so on, just to stimulate my right side of the brain in unique ways, right? So this is very important to actually do if you want to boost your creativity. That's how you actually do it. Now, another important thing is, how do we actually memorize information quicker? Or how do we improve our memory retention? Well, here is the thing. Again, by energy follows focus. If someone, for example, if someone is important to you or something is important to you, everything that's important to you, you will remember. You meet someone that you think it's important to you, you will remember. So if you make things important, you will remember them. If you make them kind of like, whatever, whatever. However, one proven thing is that directly affects our memory and memory retention is our emotional state. The higher our emotional state is, the more or stronger our memory becomes at that moment. And it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. Actually, negative, like highly stressful and emotions of fear, of stress, of anxiety, these moments, that's why they actually register those moments of trauma, and you can recall them vividly because they take, or any time we are in a highly emotional state, good or bad, these memories take priority and they're recorded and stored in a very, very deep place into the mind. So if you know how to actually raise your emotional state, you can also increase your level of memory retention. Now, this is obviously a skill like everything else, and you'll have to practice it daily to get better at it. So if you know how to elicit emotions within you, which I would recommend if you want to learn how to, watch my video on emotional intelligence and you will learn how to actually do it. So go watch my video on emotional intelligence and how to elicit and generate emotions from within yourself. And then you can use that skill to improve your memory retention whenever you want to learn something, or you sit to learn something, or whatever the reason might be, right? Again, it has to do with how high is your emotional state, or how emotionally wired you are in that moment. The more emotional you are, again, doesn't matter good or bad, I would definitely recommend training yourself to elicit good emotions, though, because if you're training yourself to elicit bad emotions, well, this will be a very shitty place to put yourself in, and very, very unhealthy habit to develop, as you will find out if you're to watch, which I do recommend, my video on emotional intelligence. So raise your emotional level, and simultaneously you'll raise your memory retention significantly. Another great way to do it is to, prior to sitting down and learning something or whatever you're doing that you deem important, again, by making it important, you actually will remember it too, or you will increase your level of importance. But what helps with that too is asking questions regarding this thing, deep, open-ended questions, right? Because questions are the steering wheel of the mind. And by asking prior to questions and not trying to remember them, but asking your subconscious mind, and that's because what you're doing is auto-suggestion. You're asking yourself, in essence, inputting these questions into your subconscious mind, and then your subconscious mind will scan as you study, as you read, whatever you're doing, and bring up those answers or capture and memorize this information that is relevant and important to you. So always having a set of good questions asked before you read a book or you study a lesson or whatever you're doing, right, that you want to learn or memorize better. Have good questions regarding, especially about the most important things or the things you think are most important about it. Starting there would be another great thing to do. Asking good questions. And the quality of your life truly is defined by the questions you ask yourself on a daily basis, to be honest with you, because this is how you steer or analyze and realize where you stand and where you need to go, or what you need to change in order to get where you want to go, as long as you know where you want to go, because this is an important thing, right? Another fundamental thing that I already kind of like alluded to that, but let me build up more. Another fundamental practice that would definitely make a significant difference in your ability to concentrate, to focus, to be very present, to have a lot of energy, and be very aware and conscious is meditation. Daily practice of meditation. I cannot recommend meditation more. I mean, this is the one thing that really changed my life over. This was meditation. So I do highly recommend you developing a daily, serious, and consistent meditation practice where you meditate for a minimum of 20 to 30 minutes every morning. Especially in the morning, it's best to do it in the morning. As soon as you wake up, when your mind is clear, it's calm and peaceful, and just meditating first thing in the morning. Meditating daily is the best thing you can truly do for yourself and well-being. Nothing else really is gonna have any more, or like will be this fundamental piece of the puzzle that will change everything from you and will really transform who you are, how you enjoy life, how you experience life, and so on. And the type of meditation I do recommend for beginners is Vipassana meditation, or any type of awareness meditation that puts you back into your body. Because here is the thing. The mind is described by Buddha as a drunken monkey that jumps from a branch to branch. And what he meant by this is that the mind is going, if you don't learn to meditate and start to practice meditation, is always going from one thought to the next one, to the next one, back and forward between thoughts and thoughts and thoughts and thoughts and thoughts. And you never have this moment of peace and calm where your mind is just empty. It's just such a beautiful space. And when you start to meditate and learn to meditate and turn it into a daily practice, this becomes your natural state where you only use your mind when you need to use it, right? Your intellectual mind, you don't need to have it all the time thinking and having this like meditation and all this vocalization and all this nonsense going on. You don't need that commentator going on. This is just a habit. It's just how you've conditioned yourself for a very, very long time, and that's why you have it. But it's such a beautiful place when you can condition yourself not to have it anymore and to only engage your mind when you need to use it. If you've driven a car that has stick shift or manual gearbox, you would know that there is a clutch. And unless you press the clutch and you engage a gear, right, you step on the clutch, you put in the car into a gear, it's not going to go anywhere. So it's kind of like you're in neutral. You put your brain in neutral or your mind in neutral, and it's just in neutral. It's just peaceful, calm, no noise, no ideas, not ideas, but thoughts, because ideas are important, right? Having good ideas. And that's why actually it's important to keep the mind quiet from all this nonsense and regurgitation of thoughts and nonsense that's going on, because when you quiet the mind, your intuitive ideas and all this creativity, this ingenuity and resourcefulness can actually start to come through. Because think of it this way. If we were to go to a social event, right, and we wanted to talk to each other, and there is this, I'm very shy, but very creative and so on, and I want to give you all these amazing ideas. But I'm very shy and my voice is very quiet. And right next to us is this big mouth thing that just blasts all this noise, and I'm talking to you, but you cannot hear anything because there's just this loud mouth right next to us, right? You can see my lips moving, but you cannot hear a single thing I say. That's often what's going on. When somebody says I'm not creative or I don't have ideas, my intuition doesn't work, that's not the case. Your intellectual mind is way too loud. Way too loud, and you just cannot hear because you don't have the space. That's why meditation is such a powerful tool and habit to develop. It's just fundamentally important. I cannot recommend it any more than that. Truly, if you want to make a significant difference in your life, begin to meditate. I truly mean this. I do it every morning, and I've been doing it for a very long time, and I intend to do it for the rest of my life. Again, I already spoken about this, but again, in order to stimulate the brain and consequently the mind, you have to use your body. You have to move your body, because your brain's main function is to control all the processes, coordinate your movements, and so on. So the more complex movement and the more you move and you engage your body on a daily basis, the more you're going to stimulate your brain. It's necessary to use your body. Again, it's a very simple concept. You either use it or you lose it. Case closed. It's up to you to decide. But my recommendation is to use your body daily, to move a lot, right? A lot, because that's what it's built to do. Not to sit down and watch TV and eat and sleep and none of this fucking crap. We're not hens that make eggs in some farmer's farm, right? We are human beings. We are natural foragers and hunters. You don't forage by sitting down, or neither do you hunt by sitting down. Right? So foraging and hunting, again, as our ancestors would have done it, would have been required for us to move a lot, to climb, to do all these activities. So to stimulate the brain continuously, we need to move on a daily basis. This is a very important thing to keep in mind. Daily movement, even if it's just a 30-minute walk. It's amazing for your health. It's amazing for your brain. It stimulates the whole system. So daily movement is fundamental. And finally, this might come as a surprise. And what I want you to realize is that what enables, obviously, the brain to work clearly and brings the oxygen to it, or any nutrition, right, is the bloodstream, right? Because this is how actually oxygen is circulated through the whole body, through the bloodstream. That's what the blood or the heart does. It pumps blood everywhere, and the lungs infuse it with oxygen and take away the carbon dioxide, right? So here's the thing that is very important for you to understand. The higher amount of body fat you have, the more restricted your blood flow becomes, and the harder it is for the heart to pump blood to your brain. What do I mean by this? If you want to enhance your cognitive capacity and your heart's ability to supply your brain with high quality blood rich in oxygen, not only do you need to breathe well, right, slow deep breathing and stay hydrated, but you also need to lower your body fat, or BMI, body mass index. The lower the better. Now obviously there is a optimal state, but anywhere between, I would say, don't go extreme, right? That's not healthy either. But anywhere between 10 to 15 at the most is ideal. Preferably 10. If you can reach 10, I know it's a challenge for most people nowadays with the type of garbage food that everybody eats. But if you can reach that level and maintain that level of body mass, you can be sure that you can be living to 100 and you're still going to have the same cognitive capacity as somebody who's 30 years old. I'll give you an example from my own life. My grandmother just turned this last weekend 93 years old. She's kind of as skinny as I am. She's always been that way. And I had a nice long conversation over the phone to tell her, hey, happy birthday, Grandma. I love you and everything, right? And she's doing great. And her mental capacity, the way she is like the way I've always remembered her. Even when I was a little kid, she was as sharp in the head that she is right now. And the one thing that is obvious is that she's always been very skinny. And I'm not saying be very skinny, but again, the more body fat you put on, the lower your blood pressure, or the blood circulation, not pressure, but blood circulation becomes, and your heart's ability to supply your brain with enough oxygen. Because as we already learned, oxygen is the #1 fuel our brain needs to function at its optimum. And if the blood flow to our brain is restricted, when we obviously depriving it of oxygen. And one interesting fact is that when a human being dies, what actually dies is their brain. Because what happens is when the brain dies, or when the brain is deprived of oxygen, that's when a human being dies. Before that, nothing. A person cannot die. It's when the supply of blood and oxygen to the brain shuts off when death occurs. So just keep this in mind, not to scare you off, but just knowing that if you want to continue to have a very high level of cognition and ability to remember, to think clearly. That's another thing about my grandma. She never forgets anything. And she's 93. And how many young people cannot even remember a goddamn thing? And what's the commonality? They all have a lot of fat. So keeping a low level of body fat is fundamental too. Fundamental. Now, I'm really, really glad that I was able to create and have this amazing video and have you on and tuning in and adding value to you and educating you on such an amazing and important subject. I've also created numerous videos. This video is number 12 in a series of long-term lessons I created that go in combination or complementary to live workshops I'm hosting and webinars I'm hosting, as a matter of fact. And down below, you will find a list of all the events I'm hosting live or either as a webinar or in person. So I would love to see you there. If you see that the value, as you can see, there's plenty of value that I want to offer you and insights and wisdom I want to share. So please go below, come and see me at one of the live events that are upcoming, or join me for a webinar. simultaneously. If you think that this was a great video, you learned a lot of things, please like it, share it with your friends that you think that would benefit from this information as well. Also, I'm offering a 5-day-long free holistic transformation challenge that is loaded with a lot of amazing wisdom, insights, and value. You can sign up for it right below and start transforming your life immediately, because as I mentioned already, it's your actions or daily actions and behavior that would create the change you want to see in your life, not the knowledge you acquire. It's what you do with the knowledge, not with the knowledge you have. And finally, I'm offering an amazing 1-hour full coaching, complimentary coaching session for anyone who wants to take me on my offer. I want to serve you powerfully and empower you to overcome whatever your greatest problem is right now, or to take advantage of your greatest opportunity at this moment. Go below. All the links are down below in the description. Click get on my calendar and schedule your coaching session. I look forward to serving you powerfully. Thanks again. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye.